There is a moment in human history when ignorance ceased to be merely an individual failure and became a viral epidemic, and you are living in it right now. Every time you swipe your finger across the screen, you're participating in the largest behavioral experiment ever conducted, an experiment that wasn't designed to make you wiser, but rather to keep you addicted, engaged, and ironically, increasingly distant from the truth. Our ancestors fought against the scarcity of information. Today, you carry in your pocket more knowledge than all the libraries of Alexandria, and yet we're witnessing a cruel paradox. The more access we have to information, the more confused we become. The more connected we are, the more isolated in our bubbles of certainty. Social media promised to democratize knowledge, but it democratized ignorance. It gave equal voice to the expert and the charlatan, to the scientist and the flat earther. And the worst part, they did this on purpose. Because you need to understand a fundamental truth about the platforms you use every day. They weren't created to inform you. They were created to capture your attention, and human attention is conquered much more easily by outrage, by confirmation of our beliefs, and by shock than by complex and nuanced truth. An MIT study showed that fake news spread 6 times faster than true news on social media. 6 times. This isn't an accident, it's a feature of the system. Stupidity moves like fire in a dry forest because it's emotional, visceral, shareable. Truth, on the other hand, requires pause, reflection, intellectual humility, and these qualities are incompatible with the business model of the attention economy. Let's go back a bit in history. Human stupidity has always existed. There have always been charlatans, superstitions, terrible decisions based on bad information. But there was a natural barrier, time and space. In the 18th century, spreading a conspiracy theory required convincing editors, printing pamphlets, distributing them physically. There was friction in the system. Today, that friction has disappeared. Anyone can transmit ideas to millions in seconds. We removed the friction, but not the cognitive biases that make us vulnerable to misinformation. Our brains evolved in small tribes where trusting the group was survival. We're programmed to believe what our social circle believes, seek confirmation of intuitions, reject information that threatens our tribal identity. This was a feature in groups of 150 people. It became a fatal vulnerability in the digital age. Social media exploits these bugs in our mental hardware, showing us exactly what we want to see, surrounding us with people who think like us. This filtered bubble isn't reality. It's a personalized simulation, designed to keep us clicking, scrolling, reacting. Have you ever wondered why online debates rarely change anyone's opinion? Why intelligent people believe clearly absurd things? Because on social media, truth doesn't compete on equal footing with lies. Truth is complex, full of nuances, requires effort to be understood. Lies are simple, seductive, confirm what we already believe. And our brain, tired and overloaded with information, naturally chooses the easier path. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman called this fast thinking versus slow thinking. Social media is optimized for fast thinking, for instinctive reaction, for emotional judgment. They punish slow thinking, careful reflection, genuine search for truth. If you feel more confused today than 10 years ago, it's not your fault. You're swimming against a current designed to drag you. But something even more insidious is happening. Social media doesn't just amplify individual stupidity, it creates what we could call emergent collective stupidity. It's as if, by connecting millions of minds in a network, we didn't create a collective superintelligence, but rather a super stupidity. This happens because algorithms don't prioritize the quality of thought, but engagement. And what generates engagement? Anger, fear, tribal outrage, absolute certainty. The ideas that survive and spread aren't the truest ones, they're the most viral. And virality is much more frequently a function of emotional intensity than factual accuracy. Think about how you feel after spending an hour on social media. Do you feel wiser, more connected to reality, or do you feel anxious, irritated, divided between tribes, convinced that the other side is completely insane? This feeling isn't accidental. It's the predictable result of a system that profits from your emotional activation. Every controversial post, every shocking news story, every heated debate is fuel for the machine, and you are simultaneously the fuel and the consumer, feeding a self-perpetuating cycle. But here's the deeper question, the question few ask. If social media makes us stupider, why do we keep using it? The answer isn't simple ignorance, it's addiction. The same companies that hire the best neuroscientists to understand how the brain works use that knowledge to create products that exploit our psychological vulnerabilities. Notifications that activate the same reward circuit that drugs activate. Infinite feeds that eliminate natural stopping points. Likes and shares that trigger dopamine hits. We've been hacked, but in such a subtle way that we barely notice. We think we're choosing to open the app. Actually, we've been conditioned to do so. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss this journey, because what I'm going to share now might completely change how you see your relationship with technology. The uncomfortable truth is that social media created an environment where stupidity isn't just tolerated, it's rewarded. The more simplistic your worldview, the more extreme your position, the more willing you are to demonize the other side, the more attention you receive. Nuance is punished with indifference. Complexity is penalized with disengagement. And slowly, without realizing it, we begin to internalize these rules. We start thinking in binary terms, right or wrong, us versus them, good versus evil. We lose the ability to inhabit the gray zone where most of truth actually lives. But there's an even deeper secret that few know. The problem isn't just that social media amplifies stupid content. It's reshaping the very structure of our thinking. Neuroplasticity isn't just for good things. When you spend hours jumping from fragmented information to fragmented information, scanning headlines without reading completely, reacting before reflecting, your brain adapts. You train your mind for superficiality, distraction, quick judgment. Social media isn't just tools we use. They're environments that shape us. So what do? First, recognize that you can't win alone with willpower against systems designed to be irresistible. But you can change your relationship with these tools. Treat them not as neutral windows, but as manipulated environments that distort your perception. Every time you open an app, ask yourself, am I here by conscious choice or by conditioning? Second, relearn the art of deep reading, sustained thinking. These capacities are atrophied, not disappeared. Turn off notifications. Set aside time to read long articles, complete books. Seek sources that challenge your beliefs. Feel the discomfort of having your mind change. This is growth. Third, rebuild communities outside screens. Loneliness fuels social media addiction. Digital connections are like processed food. They satisfy temporarily, but don't nourish. Invest in face-to-face conversations, participate in physical communities, rediscover the depth of real human presence. Here's the final revelation, the piece that connects everything. The stupidity we see online isn't an anomaly. It's a symptom of something much larger. We're living in an era of technological transition happening faster than our ability to adapt to it. We created powerful tools before developing the wisdom to use them. It's like giving a Ferrari to someone who just learned to drive. The problem isn't the tool itself, it's the mismatch between technology's power and the maturity of those who use it. And this mismatch is costing dearly. Our attention, our mental health, our ability to discern truth from fiction, our very democracy. But here's the hope. You are not powerless. Awareness is the first step to liberation. By understanding how these systems work, by recognizing your vulnerabilities, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop being a passive user and become a conscious participant. And when enough people awaken to this reality, the system begins to change. Companies respond to pressure, regulations are created, alternatives emerge. The stupidity that social media amplifies isn't inevitable. It's the result of specific design choices, of business models based on attention, of prioritizing profit over well-being. These choices can be undone, but this will only happen if enough of us say, no more. I won't allow my mind to be transformed into a commodity. I won't trade my capacity to think deeply for likes and superficial validation. I won't accept living in an algorithmic bubble that only tells me what I want to hear. You have a choice. Every day, every time you pick up your phone, you're choosing. You can choose to be shaped by algorithms, or you can choose to shape your own mind. You can choose depth over superficiality, truth over virality, wisdom over engagement. It's not easy. Swimming against the current never is, but it's possible and it's necessary, because in the end, the question isn't whether social media made stupidity impossible to stop. The question is, will you become part of the problem or part of the solution? Will you continue feeding the machine, or will you start reclaiming your mind? The answer is in your hands, literally. If this message touched you, if something here resonated deeply, don't let it end here. Like this video so more people can find it. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, because transformation begins when we stop consuming passively and start questioning actively. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because we'll continue exploring these uncomfortable truths that the digital world prefers you ignore. Leave a comment below. How has social media changed your way of thinking? Did you recognize yourself in this journey? Your story might be the light someone needs to awaken. We're in this together, in this quest for a freer, more lucid, more truly connected mind. Until the next video.